my name is Sarah.
My name is Mujib.
And welcome to another episode of Let's Get To It. This is episode 28, and we're going to talk about methodologies today.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? Teaching methods, teaching practices. And this is where we can really nerd out on a few things too, if we want to.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think it's so important that folks know a little bit more about how we do the things that we do, because fitness, exercise, it's everywhere. And you can really go anywhere to learn how to squat or do lunges or lift something or ride a bike or fill in the blank. But there is a method to the madness. And not every coach or trainer is the same or teaches the same. And so it's really important to choose wisely, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about it like there's a million things you can do with a sweet potato. You know what I mean? Like that sensation that's like you get not just choose wisely, but you got to find what works for you, and we've talked about this before personally, but like not everything is for everybody, and part of the method of a good trainer is to recognize when we're a good fit or when the best thing to do is to recommend somebody else. And that's what I love about networking within the community, and being able to know other trainers and other different modalities that we can subscribe to or prescribe for people, things like that. It's just awesome to understand that there is definitely something for everybody out there, and to recognize when that thing is what I have for you, or when the thing is what you have for that person,
And I think that's the sign of a really good trainer as well, when that trainer is able to say, because maybe it doesn't come from the client. Like sometimes it has to come from the coach or the trainer that maybe suggests something different. And like you said, either a different modality or a different approach or something. And that's a lot. And I think also that means that the coach has to have that collaborative mindset. And if we're only coming at something from a competitive mindset, like, I don't view you, we're colleagues, right? First of all, but even before that, I didn't see you as a competitor. You're a collaborator in this fitness space. So if I can't deliver something for a client, but I'm like, you know what, I think I have the right person for you. And that's just amazing. And the more professionals that can do that, our listeners, whatever your field is, it's really powerful to build up that collaborative network and really, take care of your community and your clients and really, serve them. Like it's putting them first so that they get the best out of the experience. Right. So yeah, I think that's so important. And not everybody does that.
Right. And, I think caretaking is a great way to put it. You put it really well in that way, that, if I perceive myself as a caretaker of people or of my community or of the people that are coming to meet with me or who are reaching out to me for something, then it is my job. It's my responsibility to keep that in mind and to, again, understand when I am what they're looking for or when I'm not. I'll probably use a lot of different analogies throughout this episode because so many different things come to my mind when I think about caretaking, or when I think about, just providing people with what they're looking for, what they need, or being able to have a little bit of insight for them, to give them some direction. That's one thing as trainers that is true, is that we are versed in what we know how to do, and we're versed in understanding the body, and we're versed in understanding how to get people from point A to point B when they're looking for some type of physical advancement, and to be able to look at somebody and to say, this is what you need, or that's what you need, and I can provide that, or I can't provide that. That's, for me, that's primary. That's number one. If somebody comes to me and they're like, I really want to get into kettlebells, but I got this slip disc and my shoulders are busted, I can't reach over my head, I'm going to suggest that they go to the rehab gym or something like that first, because I know some trainers there, and I know the trainers there that I've trained with kettlebells, and I know that they're going to be able to give you what you need in the form of rehabilitation as well as preparation for heavier lifting or for more intense exercise practices. But the last thing I'm going to do is take your money and try to, run you around in circles to
Mm,
pretend like I have what you're looking for when I don't, especially
yeah.
if it's going to put you at danger, because if we're caretakers, then the last thing I want to do is to put you at risk of greater injury or even stagnation, even progressive stagnation, like not
Mm-hmm.
making any progress. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not what we're trying to do here.
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, that's so important, and it's this, this ethos of not doing harm to people that you're serving. And I kind of think
Hmm.
of, when people become nurses and doctors, they have to take that Hippocratic oath
Right,
to not
right.
harm people. And it's really interesting because as fitness professionals, we're sort of weirdly situated in this wellness bubble because I'm not a physical therapist, I'm not an osteopath, but yet we're so integral to just a person's holistic well-being. And the sort of wrong person can really harm or hurt someone, right? The To have either to be misguided instructionally, or to be overtrained, or again, if someone is to reveal to me that they've got some kind of injury and I'm just like, oh, you'll be fine, let's just keep going. We do have an incredible responsibility. And sometimes I'm actually, I'm going to say this, maybe this is controversial. Sometimes I'm actually shocked at the lack of oversight
Mm,
of our profession in particular. Like,
mhm,
it is, there's two sides to the coin here. It's extremely easy to gain entry into the fitness industry. And I'm going to explain that. Almost anybody can become a trainer. You have to pass some courses. Yes. You have to do some studying. Yes. But if we're really honest here, like, I'm a cycling instructor. In order to get certified, I took like a weekend class. And
mhm,
all of a
mhm.
sudden I get like like a card that says I'm a certified cycling instructor, and I can take that card to a gym, and the club owner is going to say, "Great.
Right.
When can you start?" And that's, on the one hand, it's great to have a profession that's widely accessible for folks.
Mhm.
That you don't need to get 12 years of schooling or a master's degree or a PhD. But on the other hand, some you just got to be careful, because some folks, like, I know you were a student of anatomy and
Mhm.
you're always studying and reading, and you really care about your craft, and you've like uh, and I know plenty of trainers who continue to do the work.
Mhm.
But there's just plenty of people, like, they get that piece of paper,
Right.
and then it's like, they're not making appropriate recommendations, or it's just kind of like a little scary when you think about it.
Right.
And so on the one hand, it's like, I'm grateful because it was easy for me to change careers. Like, we both have come at this industry like having done things before.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful that it was as accessible as it was. But I'm also incredibly mindful of the responsibility I have, again, to caretake. And if I don't know something, or it's like, what, that's outside of my wheelhouse, here's a recommendation for a nutritionist, here's PT, here's whatever it is. And I'm like, and then I'm happy to help you work through other things after you've seen these
Right.
people.
Right, right. Yeah, I had a client once he's probably about 73. Maybe he was 71 when we were working together, and he had a shoulder issue, and it was deteriorating. He had like basically a floating bone chip in his arm,
Mhm.
in his shoulder. And they called it a mouse, and that's what he was kept telling me it was. And
Mm.
I've had some different relationships with the shoulder surgeons in the UVM network,
Mhm.
that were in the Fletcher Allen network prior. And that comes from understanding that kettlebells are great for rehabbing shoulders and for making strong shoulders, and then trying to create relationships with shoulder surgeons so that I can understand more about the shoulder complex itself,
Mm.
so I can understand why it is, and I can know when something's, like you said, outside of my wheelhouse and I need to to recommend something different for that person. And you know, this gentleman had been training with me for a while, and we were working on a lot of stuff that was just like 90-degree, not going much overhead, really not going overhead at all. And when it came down to the fact that his shoulder wasn't really getting any better, and he was getting tired of the fact that his shoulder wasn't getting better for himself, I said, you know, here's a surgeon in the area. Like, why don't you go and talk to him, see what he has to say to you, see what sort of recommendation that he could give you. And you know, he had gone around to some different like stem cell organization and things like that, people that were trying to give him injections and stuff. And he finally went to this shoulder surgeon. First he went to one like kind of medical group, and they were like, oh, you're a perfect candidate for a complete shoulder reversal. And you know, they turn the socket into a ball, and they turn the shoulder ball into a socket instead, and they stick it. Yeah, it's massively invasive.
Wow.
And it's like the last straw sort of thing. And he goes and he's like, wow, that sounds like a lot. So he comes to me and he's like, this guy says I'm a perfect candidate for a shoulder reversal. And I says, you know, you should go and see this doctor and talk to him first, get a second opinion. This guy's one of the best shoulder surgeons in Vermont, you know. And long story short, he calls that guy, and the guy's like, well, you know, I'm in your age range. That's really the last thing you want to do. Let's see what we can do for you. And he gives the guy a great surgery, and goes in there, cleans his socket up, gets the little mouse out there, like the piece of bone out of his shoulder. And when he's done with the rehabbing process, or actually he's just done with the recovery process, he's out of the sling, he's ready to get back to work, he comes to see me. And I says, okay, well, let's take you through like a kind of another intro session so I can assess you. And in the assessment, I said, nah, man, like you're not to the point yet where you can work with me again, because the things that I would have you do, you know, he was to the point where he had like a range of motion again, but his range of motion wasn't where it could be. So I said, you know, if I start working with you where you are, all I'm going to do is strengthen your dysfunction. I need somebody to get you into better function so that we can actually work together. So I have a relationship with the rehab gym here, which is a facility in Vermont, for people that are listening or from outside of the state. And they have a number of locations and great physical therapists that work right with their trainers and athletic trainers. And I've worked with some of their trainers on kettlebell training specifically. So I recommended that he go and see one, and I put them together, and he went and saw that trainer. And, you know, I think he's still working with that trainer today. He came back and he started working with me for a while before the pandemic. And, you know, like I would coordinate with the trainer who I recommended that he work with. And again, together as a network, we were able to get this gentleman what he needed. That's the most important thing, is getting somebody what they need. And as a professional, having enough of a network to be able to do that for people, especially if we're not already working within the setting that has physical therapists or athletic trainers right in the same setting.
Right. That literally, I was hanging on the sentence, I'm going to strengthen your dysfunction. I think that's actually so powerful and important for a professional to recognize that sometimes the best thing that you can do is say like, no,
right.
I'm going to send you here because I just love that. And why this is so important too. And you know, building that network and working collaboratively and what is maybe different about your local fitness scene is that, you know, at least in our context, I don't look at a client and just see dollar signs. Right. Like I'm not looking, you know, I'm not just like, okay, great, another membership, another body in the door, whatever, you know. I think for both of us, and one of the reasons that we get along and we do share a lot of the same philosophy is that again, this notion of caretaking, like I actually care. You know I don't specifically do one-on-one training like you do. I'm in a larger group setting, but I am super proud of the fact that I know the people coming through the door and their names. And, you know, if we do develop more of a relationship where, you know, it's more like the client wants to share and I start to learn more about, you know, what's going on in their lives. And, you know, you that's community. Like that's, you know, you get to know these people, you live side by side. So of course it's like, no, I don't, you know, I'm going to send you out here so that you can come back to me. You can work with me later so that I don't, you know, screw something up for you, because I don't
Right.
want that. And yeah, I think that's just, that to me is just so key. The idea that, and it takes a lot to say like, yo, I'm gonna strengthen your dysfunction, and we don't want that. You've got to, you know, let's take it back and build you back up the right way, so that we're not doing harm. And I have this like, literally, I need to like etch it on the wall or something. The do no harm, you know, because it's
Mm-hmm.
just so important. Like whether it's from an injury perspective, or for me personally, you know, I talk a lot about eating disorders and things like that, and so I also feel like my work is trying to do no harm in that arena as well. You
Right.
know,
Right.
not create a harmful situation for folks. Or how I like to call it is, you know, having an exercise space with as few triggers as possible, like triggering
Mm-hmm.
events or words as possible. You know, because we just don't. You know, a physical injury is one thing, but there's also the mental state of our clients,
Right. Right.
and they're the sort of the unseen things, you know, when you don't know what's really going on with somebody. And that's where that kind of care and compassion is so important as well, because
Mm-hmm.
the language of your teaching matters. And I wanted to talk
Absolutely.
about that a little bit too. Right.
Definitely.
So it's not just the like, okay, cool, like we've identified, you know, this particular injury, but it's sort of like the unseen that we don't know, and how your language is so powerful.
Right. Right. For me, just a little insight on that. When I realized that as a younger, like as a young trainer, you know, like I've been training people at this point since I was 27, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so 11 years. And when I was just starting out, one of the things that I realized very early on was around shuttle runs, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
how like
Oh yeah,
oftentimes they're called suicides,
yeah.
you know what I mean? And just realizing that that language, very triggering. I don't know who's in my group class. I don't know the full history of anybody who I'm working with, like their family history or anything like that, or their own personal mental state. So just taking those certain parts of language, those easy to drop things, and flipping them and saying like, okay, let's call this a different thing, or like,
Mm-hmm.
let's research a little bit of why this is called this movement, and maybe I can find a different word for this specific movement that I'm trying to teach somebody.
Mm-hmm.
um and that was, you know, that was just a very small thing, and not that I even ever said it to somebody and I watched their face change, or I never said it to somebody and I like got like a tearing response or anything like that. It was my own, like when I heard
Mm-hmm.
myself want to use that language, it changed the way that I approached it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made me reassess everything that came out of my mouth. And I love that you just brought it there, because, you know, do no harm is like, that's it. I can't, I hope we say it 10 more times in this session, like in this recording, because it, as a trainer and as people who might be listening to this who are aspiring trainers, or whatever field that you're in where you're working with somebody in a personal level or on a group level, um, understanding that our job is to make people feel as secure and as safe in that space as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And you referred to injury, and then you referred to this mental state, and it's, that's just the truth. Like if I am a caretaker, then my job is to carefully orchestrate this scenario that we're going through right now. And
Mm.
you know, can't stress it enough. And especially because language is always changing. Like
Yeah.
people are always identifying in a new way. We're always learning more about each other and community and society. And so we can't, there's nothing is static. We can't stop in one space and say like, okay, I'm not going to read any more about what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
I have to constantly be interacting with my friends and my loved ones who are in certain situations, or reading about certain scenarios, and trying to always bring my mind back into the space that I need to be able to speak everybody's language for the most
Mm.
part. You know, like there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things where, um, you know, I'm not going to train somebody who loves hate speech or something like that. Like I'm not going to demean somebody if that's what they say that they need. Again, if somebody's like, I need a demeaning trainer, then I'm probably going to try to recommend you find somebody different, because I myself, in my space and in my sacred space that is my training space, am not trying to bring that demeaning energy in, because that energy is going to linger when you leave. Like, I was just an asshole to this to Mary, and now I'm going to be a nice guy to Sarah. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So again, just understanding language and being able to navigate that, and in the forefront, like with forethought, more than reacting to somebody's face change or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And what I think of it, and I think in both of the spaces that we've cultivated, is this idea of compassionate coaching. That's kind of what I've been calling it, to give it a name. And the idea, there's sort of this sort of mainstream thinking, the whole no pain no gain, like that fitness has to hurt, and it wasn't a good workout if you didn't feel like puking at the end, or that you were really like pushing every extreme. I'm in a box. Having fun with that one. And I'm certainly, I absolutely subscribed to that for a while. I absolutely fell victim to that like bandwagon, that it's just like, yeah, we're here to push, we're here to, we're here to work. Um and realizing how unsustainable that is, how unhealthy that is. It's actually, it's not only not productive, it's counterproductive.
Right.
And we talk about it all the time, because I train with you in your studio, about this amazing graduated approach that feels like an invitation to get stronger, which I love. And in a way, I think we, I'm kind of speaking for both of us, but I think we both align on this. Like, I I I want my clients to look forward to coming to my space. I want ideally, I want them to say like, you know what, going to that class, that was the best part of my day. Not saying like, oh, this is the worst, you know. And that's just, certainly we experienced at the studio, a lot of folks when they would come in, maybe it took a lot to get there, because, you're having a bad day, maybe you're getting hangry, or just, things, just life. And you're like, I could think of 5,000 other things I might want to do. And, motivation isn't always there. And so I'm not going to try to tell somebody like you're always going to want to show up for that workout, because that's just not true. But the hope is that if you can get yourself through the door, like if you can get over that, that whether you're leaving North Country Kettlebells or you're leaving Rev, that like your day got so much better. Like you said yes, you walked through the door, you did the session, and you're like, oh, thank God I did that. Like, I'm so glad I did that. And that's the ideal. And that you didn't necessarily have to punish people. Like, you didn't make people feel crappy about it. You didn't push them to extremes. You weren't saying like, the thing that I've had trainers do this, I've walked into a one-on-one training situation where the first thing I got asked was, what did you have to eat? As if like, okay, that, somehow eating or eating the wrong thing is, okay, now this workout is punitive because you didn't eat the right thing, or, fill in the blank. But I think most people can like attest, like have their own like horror stories when it comes to fitness. And like a lot of damage can be done. And there's a lot of people who are turned away, whether it's the gym or a training situation or a boutique studio or whatever. There's so many people that are turned away because of a traumatic experience or a negative experience with a fitness professional that makes them feel bad, shamed, guilty, or it's just like every time you walk in there, you feel like it's a punishment.
Right. No shame, no gain.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Right.
And my God, like, I don't want to make anybody feel like crap at all.
Right.
And I don't want to feel like crap.
Right. And it goes back to what you said, do no harm, and the act of being a caretaker, like, if I think about how I want my mother to feel after an interaction with me, right?
Mm,
Like, do I want her to feel less of herself? Do I want her to feel like if she, you know what I mean? Or do I want her to
mm,
feel happy? Like, do I want her to feel like she's the strongest, the greatest version of herself that she can be? Like,
mm,
that's for me, that's my job. And the beautiful thing about the kettlebell is that, it if it hurts, you're doing something wrong. You know what I
mm,
mean? And
mhm,
it's very
mhm,
obvious. Like, and I was lucky enough to have the people that showed me how to lift kettlebells. They were old timers, and that's what they said. They said, you should work hard, you should work, like, you should get a good workout, a good sweat or whatever. Like, it will be challenging, but if it hurts, you're doing something wrong.
mm,
It should never
mhm,
hurt,
mhm,
and I've stuck by that. And
mhm,
and I've every certification I've ever gone to with kettlebell trainers, that's what it is. If it hurts, this is how you get away from the pain. If this hurts, then here's the correction for that. If somebody says that they're feeling this pain, then here's the cue to give them so that they're out of
mm,
that pain.
mhm,
Um, it's just the way that it really is. I'll use driving as an analogy oftentimes, in the sense of like the progression of training. But the analogy is also with driving is that if I just have you in third gear going 75 miles per hour and your car is screaming, um, we're not doing the right thing. You know what I mean? So like, if I want this to feel smooth, I want it to feel easy for you, because again, with the kettlebell, is that's the only way that we're going to progress, is that if it
mm.
feels like it's easy. And that's if you're swinging a 50-pound kettlebell, it's still going to
Which
feel
I can do
easy. Yeah, you
now.
can. Totally, totally, totally. Yeah.
And that elicits my happy dance because
Right,
it's
right,
amazing
right.
and it feels
And
good. It
if
feels
it
good.
if swinging a 45-pound kettlebell felt like crap, then you never probably would want to swing a 50-pound kettlebell. You know what
Hmm,
I mean?
hmm,
And so, that goes kind of back into what I was saying as far as like finding something that speaks to you. Like,
hmm,
if I'm trying to find a new way of eating, like if I'm having some allergic reaction to my food or some gut problems or something like that, and somebody's like, oh, you need like a all quinoa diet with no spices on it, that's not going to serve me at all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that doesn't speak to me. That doesn't speak to what's going to make me feel good at the end of the day. I'm probably going to drop off of whatever I'm doing and go back to
Mm,
however I was rocking. So it's
hmm,
always just find, maybe the best thing to do is to Google search like delicious diets for helping with IBS or
hmm,
something like that. You know what
hmm,
I mean? And then somebody's like, oh, you should stop eating X, Y, and Z because that maybe you should get a test to see if you're lactose intolerant, things like that. And then I can approach it a little bit differently.
hmm,
In thinking about this episode, that was one of the things that kept coming to my mind, is that, um, if I'm not getting the result that I'm looking for, then maybe I have to look at something within my technique that
mm,
I might be able to shift, and that
hmm,
might get me to my result a little bit better. And again, that comes from the training practice of like, if 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 it feels that hard, then there's probably something that you don't understand yet. And then
yeah.
once you understand that thing, it's going to open the door to it feeling a whole lot better, a whole lot easier. And then we can progress, then we can move forward,
Mm,
because we haven't maxed out yet.
right,
And I'll
right,
talk
right.
about that in a minute as far as like
Oh.
maxing out.
Well, a couple of things coming up for me in listening to what you just said. One thing about knowing the difference between fatigue and pain, I
Hmm.
think is really important. And I often preach that on my spin bike in particular, but in other disciplines as well. Like, where I'll train with you and I love this, like a standard question I get from you, and I love it, is how do you feel? I love it
Hmm.
when you ask me that. And it's so
Awesome.
important. It's so important. Because it's not like we're using any other metric, right? You're just like, how did that feel? And oftentimes I'm like, who, like, I felt that, and like, and I have a much better body awareness and self-understanding at this point in my life, especially when it comes to fitness, where I'm being pushed and I'm feeling that fatigue, but not pain. And I know I know where that line is for me very well. And I think, and I just try to talk to my clients about it. Like if it's painful, like if I'm, again, to bring it back to my discipline, if I'm asking you to climb or sprint or whatever it is, and it doesn't feel good, like if it feels bad, or if it's something on your body is hurting, like you've got to listen to that. If you're tired, that's one thing, because fitness is exhaustive, or can be, or it's going to, put you out on certain levels. But, it doesn't have to like take you to your max constantly, like the entire time. So I was thinking about that. And then the one other thing that I just wanted to touch on, and then we can maybe circle back to the max out thing, but this notion that if you didn't suffer, like it wasn't a good workout. I think, and I sometimes sort of see this sort of prevalence. It's like people trying to one up themselves on level of difficulty, or, oh God, just this kind of like, I barely made it. Or this idea of like, again, just like linking this suffering and punishment, and that is somehow like it was a better workout because of how like crazy hard it was. And that's not to say like I'm somebody that loves to get down, or like loves a challenge 100%, but I can't use that measuring stick for every single, like how good was my workout, like so I think that it just kind of like messes with us, this idea that it's got to be painful, there's got to be some suffering involved. No.
Right, 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 right.
It doesn't,
Oh my.
like, I don't know, I threw a lot in there.
No, it's so true. And just like any other good point, it sparks a lot of different um kind of trains of thought, and
Yeah.
I think about oftentimes like how how are we in our life outside of fitness, and how does that affect the way that we approach fitness, like um for me, like you see me, I'm pretty mild mannered person. I for the most part, I mean, I can be, I can have my own outbursts and stuff like that, but for the most part, like my demeanor is pretty chill,
Hmm.
um and that's kind of how I approach my training. So like, I've said this before, and when I first started shooting videos for kettlebell training, I would have to put, at first I didn't put any weights on the videos, because I wasn't trying to show people that. I wasn't trying to showcase like, oh, this is how much weight we're using.
Mm.
But then people would say to me like, well, how much does that thing weigh?
Mm.
And I would be like, oh, that one's 50 pounds or something like that. And then
Mm.
people would be like, oh, whoa, I thought that was 12 pounds. And so then, because I was showcasing my clients and things like that in some of these videos, I started putting the weights that people were using
Mm.
in the videos so that people could say like, oh, those are two 30-pound kettlebells, or that's a 70-pound kettlebell. Um, and because otherwise, everybody looks so mellow. Everybody looks like it's so easy. Everybody looks like they're having such a enjoyable time doing what they're
Mm.
doing. And so people think like, oh, you guys must not really be working that hard. And I was also
Mm.
working in a high intensity exercise setting, like at a CrossFit gym. And folks were expecting, at the end of the workout to be laid out and this and that. And I said, I myself, I come from a laborer background. Like, my brother's a carpenter. Like we're builders. I was a kitchen worker myself, and also, had other kind of like odd jobs, painting and helping people build things and things like that. So for me, the idea that I wouldn't be able to walk the next day after my workout
Mm. Mhm.
wasn't acceptable, because I got to walk up and down a ladder, or I got to carry this big heavy thing. If I have a damage to my shoulder and now I can't reach up over my head for 5 hours a day, then how am I ever gonna, like, it's gonna mess up my livelihood, And
Mhm.
so again, that tends to be how I try to approach the training practice for folks, is that like, this thing that we're doing here, and it's a little different too, because I am a personal trainer, so my job is to make you feel better,
Mhm.
um, and to help you interact with the best feeling that you can get. And also, that's kind of like what I sell, as far as like that, it's that enjoyability, it's that
Mhm.
that not just the endorphin rush of doing these things, but it's the endorphin rush of being like, wow, I did all that and I didn't even really feel that sore. And then we can add all those numbers up for you and all the weight and all the reps and all the sets and how much time you were under that resistance and things like that. And then folks are like, whoa, I just absorbed all that work, you know?
Yeah.
Also, because like the first time that we met, you were using half as much weight, you did half as many reps, and you felt like crap the next day. So you have to understand that this is progression. You're doing
Yeah.
twice as much as you were doing with twice as much weight, and your body is just eating it right up and ready for more. And that's what we talked about kind of last episode as far as the elements of fire and things like that. So
Yeah.
if you haven't listened to It's Elemental, go ahead back and listen
Check
to
it
that.
out. Check it out.
Because when we talk about fire in the sense of the training practice, it's not my job to burn you out. You know, my job is to build you up, is to get you steaming hot, smoking, go, and then get out of here and take that out into your life. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
go and get whatever you want to get. And again, it's just that's how I am in life. Like you'll ask the people that I am with, like that's how I try to make them feel. It's not about trying to break people down or beat people down. It's literally about trying to build people up, uplift people, get people feeling better. Whether we're in the workout setting or we're coworkers or we're cohabitators or whatever. Like that's my job, is to try to make everybody feel the way that I feel. Like I guess not necessarily the way that I feel personally, but like to share some of those sensations. And especially when it comes to the practice, like you're gonna, if you're a fly on the wall, you're going to see me moving big kettlebells, and you're going to see me smiling about it, and you're going to see me laughing about it, and you're going to see me dancing about it. And that's how I want you to feel, you know, when you're in my space working out, is like, you should dance. And you do dance oftentimes after a set,
I do a lot. Oh man. And it's just this idea that, you know, we're doing fitness that's coming from a place of joy and a place of love. And that is super contagious. And I love that. And you're exactly right in terms of, you know, who we are in the training facility or the studio is who we are outside of it, and bringing that philosophy and you know, I can speak to my personal experience with fitness was one that was very negative decades ago. You know, I had a very negative relationship to myself, and I used exercise as a tool. And I wanted to talk about, like, use this platform as an opportunity to talk about this or flesh this out a little bit, because I think it's important. Because I think there's a lot of folks who think that exercise will solve something. Like, let's just say, okay, I don't have a great sense of self. I don't feel good about myself, but I'm going to exercise myself into fill in the blank, and then all will be good and I will be happy. And yay. And so that exercise becomes that tool. It's a means to an end. And for a lot of folks maybe listening that have experience either with an eating disorder or an exercise disorder, body dysmorphia, that what you start to realize is it's sort of that literal, like, hamster on the hamster wheel. Like, no amount becomes enough. And it can have an addictive quality to it. And the whole reason why I'm sort of bringing this up is I think it's so important to have a healthy relationship to exercise. Sometimes work needs to be done outside of the gym, outside of the studio. There's a healing that needs to occur. In terms of how we view ourselves, and exercise can certainly be important in terms of instilling, like, confidence and doing a lot of other positive things. So, like, absolutely. But I think if, as someone who used to use it as a means to an end, like, oh, okay, well, burning this many calories is going to be like my salvation and my road to happiness, and I'm going to love myself because, you know, I was thinking about it the wrong way. And when exercise, like, is the destination, like the kettlebell training session is the thing. It, like, is the thing. It is the joy. It is the thing that I'm looking forward to. It's not what's going to make me look this way or blah, 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 blah. And so I'm sure there's, you know, tons of opinions on this, but I just think for folks that may be working through a past experience, or just a really, if the gym really is a trigger, or it's been sort of a negative space for folks, and I think for plenty of people it is a space of shame, or I don't know, I'm sure you get this, Mujib, that sometimes people think they have to like get into shape to work with you in the first place. There's like, oh, okay, no, like I'll, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, and then I'll sign up for that gym,
Right.
and it's like, no. We, I think we come as you are, like we,
Right.
we want to work with you. But just this idea, yeah, that I just am sort of fleshing out on my own, that it's not necessarily the tool, like that's not going to be the salvation necessarily. And the idea that, I want folks to have such a positive relationship with themselves and with fitness. Like I want that to be a source of joy, like get excited about it as you and I get excited, that it's and it really can be, it can hold that. And like you mentioned earlier, it might be spinning, it might be kettlebells, it might be dance. There's so many amazing ways that we can move our bodies, and we've talked about this before, like it's energy, right? Like we're cultivating that energy source, and we're expending energy and all kinds of stuff, and it's super powerful. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I
what
love
do
it.
you
I love
what are
that.
your
I
thoughts
love
on
that.
that? I know we come at this differently, but that life experience for me, I can't, I do work out for the joy now. Like it's not a
Hmm.
negative, and it's and
Hmm.
it's like to get to that other side is so awesome.
Right.
And I know there's folks like very much on the side that I was on, and it's
Hmm.
so much better on the other side.
Right. Right. Right.
But it takes, I had to work through a lot of stuff. I had to work through a lot of things outside of the gym to feel like it was a good space for me and a
Mm.
supportive space.
I love how you put that. Like you had to work on stuff outside of the gym in order to make the gym space feel more supportive. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
um, that was something, and I don't want to lose this little idea that I had in this moment. So I'm just going to say it to speak to it. But that's something that I really value and love about the way that you approach your training practice and the way that you approach Rev, and getting people the into high intensity exercising the way that you do, is that you bring the joy to it. You can see that on your face, you can see that on the other instructors that work with you, that you all are bringing your joy into that space, and that's what people are attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's setting the tone. Like you're setting the
Mm.
tone that this is supposed to be a joyous thing. Like you're supposed to be dancing on this bike. Like we're going to turn it up a notch, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
stand up, we're going to put the work in, but in putting the work in, that's creating joy. It's not
Yeah.
creating this continued cycle of beating you up. Like we're not trying to beat you up, we're trying to build you up, we're trying to uplift you. It's not, and so I just want to speak to that as well, because it really, as somebody who has spent the time like watching you all grow, and has spent the time really kind of trying to figure out what it is about what you offer that is so effective and that helps people so much. It really is that you bring that joy to it. And
Mm.
in hearing you say that, going outside of that space and cultivating that joy in yourself, and then bringing that back into your space, it really is just invaluable. Like it brings this incredible, not just financial success or personal success, but like it helps people find the success of what it is that they're looking for by coming through the door in the first place.
Mm.
And that's just, I don't know, I can't say enough about that.
Oh, thank
And
you.
absolutely.
It's actually super cool to hear you re-articulate that. And it's
Mm.
actually super helpful, because sometimes it's, sometimes when you're sort of in it and it's like it's your baby or it's your business, people always want to ask you all the time, like, what's your business about? Or like, that you have to be able to articulate what it is you do, your mission, your purpose, all this stuff. And sometimes it's like really nice to sit back and be like, what do you think we do? And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and actually to hear you say that, my heart is like so happy, because I'm like, yes, that's
Mhm.
what we do.
Right, right, right.
Like that is the mission. And again, we can keep circling back to this idea, like, do no harm, that we just want it. I want that experience to be joyful for people.
Yeah.
And if, I was taking a class with Dr. Loretta Ross, and she said, on social movements, and she said, you got to make your movement so irresistible that people want to join. Like, the movement's got to be fun. She was big. I mean, she's a legend in terms of racial justice movement, social justice, women's reproductive rights, like on and so forth down the list. And she was big on, like, the movement's got to be fun. And it just seems, you're kind of like, yeah, I mean, people want to, and not to take away from, like, the seriousness, but she was like, yeah, there's joy in this movement. There's a party in this movement. And that can be extrapolated into so many things, but it's like, yeah, I want you to come to my house and have a good time.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
No disrespect to the group House of Pain, but, like, I don't, like, I want it to be a house of joy that you're like, I can't wait to go back. That was
Right.
so awesome.
Right.
Totally. Like, that made me feel so good. That made me feel so strong, or I feel so empowered. And then that just, it is contagious.
Right.
And sometimes, like, I got in the habit of, pre-COVID, for sure, obviously, when I was still holding in studio classes, I would get in the habit of, right after class, I would, when everyone's endorphins are, like, up, I would actually ask people to pay it forward. So people would be we'd be stretching, cleaning off bikes, music is still going, or the outro music or the cool down music. And I'm like, take this good feeling that you feel right now and pay it forward. And whether it's buying somebody a coffee, the person in line behind you, again, sort of pre-COVID, or I guess you could do that in the drive-through, but or whatever it was, or go ahead and send that text message that you're thinking about somebody, or whatever it was. Like, take this feeling of joy and contentment and excitement and pass it on.
Yeah.
Like, and I love that idea that we, like, can have that effect, that sort of butterfly effect of our energy. And I mean, I love when I'm walking out of North Country Kettlebells, I feel so good. I'm like on top of the world, and I'm singing and dancing, and
Right.
I feel so good.
And to me, that's a dream come true, like, that's what I've worked to cultivate, is that exact feeling. And to hear that that's your perception of it, is just, again, it brings that much joy back to me, which then inspires me to deliver that to people that much more, like, even when I've worked in settings where the purpose was to leave a sweat angel on the ground and, like, almost want to puke, I would still just try to encourage people, like, just try to walk away from it, like, if we think about this like combat, like, the one on the ground is not the one you want to be at the end. You want to be the victorious one.
That's such a
standing
good
up over
point.
the bar. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the bar doesn't have a brain, the kettlebell doesn't have a brain, it should not win the fight. Like, this is a training practice. And again, I come from a modality where I'm working with this tool. Like, that's my training partner, is the kettlebell, and its job is to show me what I'm capable of, and its job is to work with me to increase my capability. It's, if I'm sparring with somebody in a boxing ring or something like that, like, and I'm helping them train for a fight, then my job is to help them train for a fight. It's to help them feel better about themselves. It's about, giving them the right challenge so they have to step up to it, not sucker footing them or something like that. But at the same time, like, I'm there for their benefit. You know what I mean? And that, again, is how we approach the workout, is like, the workout is there for my benefit. It's not to degrade me. It's not to show me what I'm not capable of,
Yes.
and what we're, just to kind of circle about to that idea of maxing out. I don't know how many times that I've worked with somebody who in a kettlebell setting now, and we're talking about their other exercise modality, you know, and
Mhm.
somebody's like, oh, you know, I'm trying to PR my deadlift and I just can't get above it, like a barbell deadlift.
Mhm.
They're like, I just can't get above it. I'm trying to do 2 pounds and I just couldn't pick it up. And I'm like, okay, so how much were you picking up? They're like, okay, let's say it's a 55-year-old woman. And she's like, you know, I was picking up 135. I'm trying to get to 137.5. I'm like, okay, like how many times can you pick up 135? 5 times. Can't pick up 137.5 once? No. Okay, let's go grab a bar real quick. Let's see what's going on. Because I know in my mind, as a person, as a trainer, as an individual, like if you can't make that 2.5-pound jump, it's not strength. It's not your strength.
Mm.
There's something else happening here.
Mhm.
And my job as a puzzle maker, you know, like
Yeah.
my job is to figure out what's going on. You know,
You're a
that's why
decoder.
I love my job. I'm a decoder,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so like that person might go and get the bar, and this has happened multiple times. That person might go get the bar. We might bring up, 140 pounds worth of plates up. And I say, okay, go ahead and set up. We got 110 pounds on the bar. Like this is a comfortable weight for you. Set your movement up. Look at them for a second. Oh, bring the bar closer to your legs.
Mm.
Oh my God. Okay, put the 135 on there. Oh my God. Okay, let's put 37.5 on there. Oh my God. Yeah, put
Mm.
145 on the bar. Oh my God. And it's like, yeah, the bar was too far away from your body. How
Mhm.
long have you been doing this practice? How many instructors have watched you deadlift? How many pointers have they given you? And
Mm.
nobody ever said, pull the bar closer to your body? Well, then what the fuck was that instructor doing there? And so for me,
Right?
like it starts to piss me off in that setting. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because I'm like, and then I gotta, after the class is over, I gotta go talk to the instructor. Hey, come here for a second. Like, such and such is in my class and they're telling me that they're not PR and they don't feel good about what they're doing. I need you to watch these people a little closer. Like, make them do what you can do.
Mhm.
Don't. And I think that that's the thing about fitness, and that's how we approach what we're doing, is that we're trying to spread our joy to other people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to impress somebody with what I can do. I'm
Right.
not trying to show you up.
Right.
People oftentimes ask me like, why are you not wearing workout clothes? I'm like, well, I'm not here to work out. Like, your doctor's not in a gown. Your doctor is in the coat. Like, your
Yeah.
doctor's in doctor's clothes. He comes in, or she comes in the best clothes. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not my job to show you what I'm capable of doing. You know what
I
I mean?
love that.
And it comes to the point where every once in a while, like I was working with these high schoolers, um, and we went through 6 weeks of programming, and in the first 3 weeks, like they didn't really believe that I was teaching them anything, you know what I mean? And by the sixth week, like they're
Typical.
like, oh my God, like this is great. I can do so much more now, and it feels so much easier to do that stuff that felt hard. And one of the kids is like, what can you do with that 70-pound kettlebell? I was like, everything, man. he's like, he's like, he's like what? And I was like, everything that I showed you how to do, I can do with that. And
Yeah.
he's like, let's see. And then so I did something real quick, boom, 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 put it down. Not trying to impress him, just trying to like show him that I'm not lying to you. He's like, well, what do you do with that 88-pound kettlebell? I was like, same stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that's my limit, but like I can do stuff with it. And he's,
Yeah.
let me see. So okay, I'll show you. Boom, boom, boom. And he says, oh, you make it look so easy. And I said, isn't that's what I'm telling you? Like, if it felt hard, I'm gonna go back down and wait, and I'm gonna make that weight feel easier, and I'm gonna come
Mm.
back up. Like, if it feels hard, then there's something that I don't understand, and I
Mhm.
have to go back down, and I have to understand that a little bit better. And you can probably relate to it with the spin class. If somebody's like, I wanted to puke after I got off the bike, like I felt like I was gonna pass out. Well, what did you eat today? Did you
Mm.
fuel properly?
Mhm.
I remember the first time that I went to a high intensity class and was like laid out on the floor, and the person was like, well, what did you have for food today? I
Mhm.
said, oh, I didn't have, it's an early morning class. Like I didn't eat anything. I maybe had a cup of coffee, you
Yeah.
know? And he's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, there you go.
There you
Like
go.
when you haven't eaten for 13 hours, you
Right.
know what I mean? And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. Like my body isn't, I don't have, I've not, I haven't fueled my body properly to come and do
Mm.
this. So then the next time that I came to that class, I was properly fueled and I rocked it and I didn't feel like I was going to pass out. And
Yeah.
I think that the most important thing again is to do no harm, and as the caretaker
Mhm.
is to say, at the end of this workout, you will feel fatigued, you'll feel
Mhm.
like you worked, but you will feel replenished, like you won't
Yeah.
feel depleted. And if you feel depleted, then take it down a notch, or make
Mhm.
sure that you're fueling properly before you come in here, so
Mhm.
that we're not bottoming out your tank. Like, I don't need you to spend all your energy in here. I need you to
Mhm.
leave here with energy to go and do what else you need to do for the rest of your day. That sort of
Mhm.
sensation. Yeah.
Oh my God. So many things. Sorry if that was my buzz.
Mhm.
Um, so many things there. Couple of things just sort of floated into my brain. I used to say stuff like, I'd be done with the class and I'm like, if anybody's on a juice cleanse, get out of
Right,
here.
right, right, right.
Because first of all, the body needs nutrient, and I'm not slamming juice cleanses. If you want a juice cleanse, that's fine, but do not show up to a high intensity cardio class while on
Right,
a
right.
cleanse. Like those two things should not be in combination, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm big on kind of fueling for the work, and also, um you talk about sort of going up or down in kettlebell weight. Something kind of comparable in cycling class, I think, is leaving the saddle. So, for those that are familiar or unfamiliar with studio cycling, we're either sitting in the seat in the saddle, or we're in a standing position out of the saddle. And when you're out of the saddle, that can take a significantly more energy to be out of the saddle, than when you're seated. And oftentimes when we leave the saddle, we're jogging or running, is just some of the terminology. And body positioning is crucial. There's a lot of things that have to be correct, or injury can happen, or fatigue, and etc. And one of the things that I always try to um, suggest to folks is that, you know what, if we're out of the saddle for a long time and you need to sit, no questions asked, because we might be doing something that is intensive out of the saddle. But if we're spending 5 minutes out there, and you haven't built up the ability to be out of the saddle for 5 minutes, it is going to feel like crap.
Mhm,
um,
mhm.
but so it's again, it's cultivating a space and an environment where people don't feel like they have to do that thing or else. Well,
Right.
everybody else is doing it, and or it's to not shame people into doing something that doesn't feel good, not to ostracize anybody. To again, I always think, when I look back on my own teaching or my own classroom and the students that are in it, because I'm in a group scenario. If I look out amongst 40, 50 people, which, God, I can't wait for the other side of this pandemic,
Mhm.
because I really miss those class numbers. Um, and I actually see a variety in variation in what folks are doing, then I actually know that I'm doing something right. And what I mean by that is, it shows me that the client feels comfortable enough to do what they need to do in that moment. So, some people may say, all right, we need the whole room up and we have to be in perfect unison and everybody's got to be like marching lockstep. And trust me, there are some really cool moments, and I'm sure you've seen them on social media, where people are doing jumps and tap backs. And again, this is like industry speak. This is, indoor cycling jargon. And it can look really cool to see sort of like this unified movement. But um, again, if we're doing something and I'm like, okay, I see a couple people throughout, like this person's deciding that they're going to stay seated, and this person, it just shows me that you know what you need, and you feel safe enough to be like, you know what, I'm actually not going to take that cue right now, because either I know it doesn't feel right for my body, or I'm using this as a recovery today, like my PT said you should go to that cycling class but just like stay seated.
Right.
And so I absolutely love it, and I reinforce that with folks. I'm like, I am so glad that you guys are tuning in. And because people can be in a class environment and just think, oh, if I don't do what the instructor says, I'm not a good student, or I'm doing the wrong thing. It's like this group think. And And believe it or not, I actually do not want to be a cult leader.
Mm.
Like that is not that is not a job that I want. And to hear you speak, Mujib, too, and also to know you and how you teach, like I think the best trainers and coaches, like it's not about them. It's
Right.
not about what I can do. It's not about what you can do. It's having this sort of humility. I know what I can do on a bike. And I do have self-confidence. Like I know I can waste a bunch of people on a bike. Like I know
Right.
that.
Right.
I don't have to show you that every time. I don't have to prove to you, all the things that I am capable of physically. That's not the point. When I'm hosting a class, when you are part of my classroom, like it's about you and your experience. And so, like, my biggest pet peeve,
Yes.
if we can go there,
Please.
is the celebritization of fitness instructors, where it's just like, it's all, and you see this more in mainstream fitness, big fitness is kind of what I like to call it. Where it's just like it's about that person and their celebrity and their aura, and not that you shouldn't be motivated and inspired by somebody, because I totally get that,
Mhm.
but like it's also not about them.
Right. Right.
So like if I'm going into a space and it's just, if I'm paying you to be my personal trainer, if I go into a session and you can probably feel pretty quickly if you're just there to talk about your accomplishments and show me all, whatever. And actually what I love is usually when you give me a demo, you're picking up a very modest, like, you'll pick up like 15 pounds, and I'm like, I know he can do that with like 6 times the amount of weight. But again, it's just like it's not about you showing me that.
Right.
And it is kind of, of course, like the high school kids are going to be like, oh, you prove it, man.
Right. Exactly.
So I mean, I could totally understand. I can hear that. I could totally get that.
Uh,
Anyway, that was a lot. That was a bit of a rant,
no, I love that because
but
it the reason, you just spoke to it perfectly. Like if I and I had to learn this the hard way, like because with kettlebell training, I talk about the three kettlebells, right? So you got your first kettlebell is your learning bell, second kettlebell is your practice bell, third kettlebell is your application bell. So since our whole purpose is to get you to that application bell, right? But imagine if two things. Imagine one, if the first day that you came in to learn a kettlebell swing, I gave you that 50-pound kettlebell to swing. Um, it would be dangerous. It would be scary. It would elicit the opposite response that I want to elicit. Like I want everything to feel so easy that of course you can lift that 50-pound kettlebell. Of course it's not shocking when I put it in front of you. Like that's what I need. And then also if the goal is to get you to that third kettlebell, um, sometimes it scares people. You know what I mean? Like if everything that I'm showing you is with a 70-pound kettlebell and I'm grunting and screaming and doing all this other stuff, like, and you're a beginner, or you're like an older person, or you're somebody who's just in the beginning of their strength progression, or you're coming back from injury, or any number of reasons, or even if you just don't like somebody trying to show off in front of you, and it's a turn off to see that sort of thing.
yeah.
For all of those reasons, I'm not going to pick up that 60-pound kettlebell and show you anything, because I'm trying to show you how easy it is to do it. I'm trying to show you what it should look like. I'm not, and if I was to get the 60-pound bell, I would just show you one rep. I'd show you what I want you to see. But the whole point is just to, again, like you said, I'm taking myself out of it. I'm not bringing my ego to it. It's about you. Like you're literally coming into my space for yourself to feel better when you leave, not so that you feel, not so that, I mean, if you feel better about me, it's because of the experience that I've given you. I don't want you to walk away being like, oh, Mujib is so strong, I'll never get to that, or Mujib is so strong, like I want to attain his levels of strength. Like no, it's not about me at all. Like I want you to
Right.
feel into your body. I want you to listen to your body. I want you to work at your pace. I want to meet you where you're at. I'm not trying to trying to, like, you don't need to meet me where I am. I don't need to
Right.
teach you from where I am. I need to
Right.
meet you where you are, and I need to teach you from where you are. That's the whole point of the practice. Like,
Right.
it's and that's what's going to get you to where I am. I said this to somebody the other day, like, and hopefully you're listening. I love it. But I said this to somebody the other day, like, I'm not going to teach somebody how to drive, like some beginner who's learning how to drive. I'm not going to teach you how to drive on the highway in a snowstorm,
Right.
right? I'm going to teach
Yeah.
you how to drive in calm weather, in a safe setting, in a place that makes you feel confident and comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Am I trying to teach you how to drive so that you can drive well in a snowstorm on the highway? Yeah, that's the whole point. Like,
Right.
that's why I'm showing you what I'm showing you in the first place, is so that you can work with that heaviest weight that you can use, but so that you're successful at that. You know what I
Yes.
mean? So if
Mm-hmm.
I can make you feel comfortable with the process, then we can add another element to it. Okay, let's go out onto the road and let's get into some traffic. Now
Mm-hmm.
we'll add that other element to it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no point in trying to impress you, quote unquote, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably already impressed by whatever marketing that you saw or whatever I said to you that made you want to come and see me. I don't need to also like show off in front of you. And
Mm.
I this is I'm this is from experience though, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely responsible for, you know, showing off myself in certain situations, not to my clientele in that one-on-one setting, but like, if, like I said, I used to work with a CrossFit gym, and everything there is like PR. How high can you
Mm-hmm.
jump? And the PR my box jump. How much can I deadlift? PR my deadlift. And there was this one instructor there, and he loved me because I would come out of my space, to go and put something away. And I had a little studio in the space. So I'd come out of my North Country Kettlebell studio space. And I'd see like three, like, thick necked dudes, like, broing it up down by a deadlift or box jump or something. And, I'm coming down there, I'm essentially wearing like khakis and loafers. And like, I walk up and I'll say, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, Johnny's about to PR his, box jump. I'm like, oh yeah, jump up on the box or something, or Johnny's about to PR his deadlift, and I'm like, oh yeah, pick up the deadlift real quick, and then just walk off. And but you know that made Johnny feel like shit.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not my job. Like, that's
Mm.
my ego speaking.
Yeah.
That's me showing off.
Mm-hmm.
That's me knowing that this other instructor loves it when I do shit like that. So
Mm.
I'm gonna do it. And my goal wasn't to make Johnny feel like shit. I had to look in hindsight and be like, damn, that probably made Johnny feel like shit. Like,
Mm.
he's been warming up for 25 fucking minutes. Sorry for cursing so much. I'm getting like amped up about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like, Johnny's been warming up for 25 minutes to do this thing, and he's about to like maybe hurt himself trying to do it. Like, he's gonna skin his leg trying to hit that box jumper. He's gonna make his back sore trying to do that deadlift. And I'm gonna jump in front of him and just like pick it up and show him what I can do and walk off smiling. That's not what it's about. That's not what we're supposed to be about as trainers and as instructors and as caretakers. And that again, that kind of like drives my methodology, is like, if I'm gonna get you where you want to be, it's by helping you from where you're at and taking you there and guiding you there, almost
Well,
hand
yeah.
in hand.
Yeah. And I think, and thank you for sharing that experience, because I think it's also important that people know that, it's not like we haven't made mistakes,
Right.
or, that we don't battle some of these same things, like
Right.
ego and fitness. And certainly, because, a very real fitness is, it is very much about the body. It's body centric, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I think we've all been there, whether it's showing our strength quite literally in that kind of situation, which kind of feels like a little bit of machismo, like what happens, in the weight room.
Mhm.
And also from another side to it is, how one's body presents. Like, that's a big issue in fitness, I think, and in mainstream fitness is, I think it's really dangerous to associate effective trainers and coaches with their looks
Mhm.
necessarily, or
Mhm.
judge. Here's let's peel back the curtain in fitness a little bit too, in fitness marketing, right? What big brands or companies want to do is they want to highlight a particular trainer, and let's just say body, And part of what they're going to try to sell you is do this thing so you'll look like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I mean, come on. It's the beauty industry is riddled with this as well, right? Like you see the person selling the product. Oh, well, my eyelashes look like hers if I buy that product. Will my abs look like theirs if I, buy the shake weight?
Mm-hmm.
Remember the shake weight,
I
everybody?
do.
Okay. So, and they'll put a super jacked, oiled up dude holding the shake weight, and people are like, oh, okay. And it continues to happen. And even in my own corner of the world, and I'm actually getting back to something you kind of referenced, Mujib, believe it or not. But I'll have a client, or multiple clients actually, they'll say, I'll just say it. This has been particular to my experience. I want Sarah DeGray arms. Okay, I have, for those of you that can't see me, this will be on YouTube, but I have a muscular physique, let's just say. And I got it from my mama. Like I can show you a picture of 7-year-old Sarah, and I have the same arm muscles. Like, so there's something to that. But my response was not, okay, well, keep coming to my classes and you can look like this too. I don't know whose voice that is. But my response is always like, well, you can't have Sarah DeGray arms because these are my arms. And you're not me and I'm not you. And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. I'm saying that to just be like, well, how about having your own arms? And like, because your body's great and it's fantastic and it's, doing all this work. And I just don't, I've never been comfortable with this idea of sort of like selling what I do. Like, oh, you can look like me or look like our trainers as long as you come into this space. And I understand that certain activities you might present differently, right? Because, if you're building up your arms and your shoulders, or if you're doing a lot of push-ups, that's going to result in XYZ. And if you're somebody that runs daily, you're going to develop certain muscles and whatever. So I get it that our physique is, potentially malleable. And then of course, nutrition matters. It's complicated. But the point is, I again, what really sort of gets me fired up is this idea that we are still marketed and sold a lot of fitness based on that spokesperson, that body, that person that's sort of, doing the thing. And news flash, like chances are that the yoga studio that you're going to, or the gym, or, wherever your instructor's a real person, and they look how they look, and whether or not they're good at what they do has nothing to do with how they look with their shirt off. Like, I don't know.
Totally true.
But again, and it just goes back to also the, like, it's not about me. It's not about you. I'm not up there, to, at least for me, like, I'm not up there to show off anything to hope that you're thinking like, oh, you want to do this to be more like me. No, please no. I just like, I don't know. But there's a lot of trainers where the business that we're in actually attracts a lot of that personality, that cult of personality. A lot of people are thinking that way, that are on the podium, or the ones that are doing the coaching. So they're out there.
Right. Totally.
But just think to yourself, like, okay, well, does that person actually care about your well-being? And maybe they do. I don't want to assume that they don't, because they might, like to check out their own body, whatever. But anyway, I'm kind of off on a tangent, but I do think that's important in terms of our methodologies. Just this idea that, I want my clients to, you said like about the best version of themselves. Like, I want my clients are amazing as they show up, like however they get in the door, you have everything that you need, everything that you've ever needed, you already have. And my job and Mujib's job is to cultivate that. It's to bring it out. You've got
Exactly.
it. There's literally nothing I can sell you that you don't already have.
Right.
We're literally just guides.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. And I think we need to end there, actually.
Yeah, totally. Because it's so obvious that both of us could just keep on talking about this topic.
Well, like this is what we do.
Have a part 2, you know.
This is there has to be a part 2, because this is our bread and butter.
Right.
This is what we do.
Totally.
And if we weren't passionate about it, then we should do something else.
Right, that's it.
Right? I love that. The moment that we're really just getting fired up, we're gonna throw water on the fire.
Yeah.
Or sand on it.
Well, we're just gonna spread it out. That's all. Like we're not putting it out. We're just spreading it out.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Oh man. Okay, listeners, viewers, wherever you are, thank you guys so much for listening to this conversation. It's near and dear to our hearts, obviously, and we will continue this conversation certainly again.
Totally.
Right?
Totally, absolutely.
Awesome. My name is Sarah.
My name is Mujib.
And hope you all have a great day. Thank you for listening.